AF. Right, this is the second part of it. Second part, you got that?
You've got to do E2.
AE2. AE2, there was a second part to it, somehow or other it's disappeared.
Can you read that out?
Yes, I can read that one out too.
It's on page.
It's on
Right,
page
where is it?
57.
AE2. Right, now we've got it. Okay, so that the governing body accept the recommendations of the independent panel in relation to E2, deleting standards relating to building work and internal design matters addressed in the building code, admission of daylight to dwellings. Right, got that? I'm going to put it. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
Thank you. Right, now we move next to, we've got F. I think we will put these as a group because I didn't sense that there was a lot of noise about this. So F, G, where's H and I? Coming in H and I. Delete, delete, delete. There it is. H, Wynyard Precinct, and I.
I don't agree.
Happy to move.
And it's already been moved.
Right.
It's been moved and seconded by Councillor Penny Hulse and by Councillor Linda Cooper. Right, we got that? H, I,
No,
I.
delete. Recommendation to delete. I want to delete them.
I. There it is. Queen Street Valley Precinct. Councillors, you, we've been through all of those and I trust you're comfortable with them. So this is F through to I. I'll move those. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Right, now we move into an interesting discussion. J, the panel recommends the deletion of the minimum dwelling size standard in the city centre and business zones.
I'd like to recommend the rejection. Mr. Mayor,
Councillor
very
Penny H
enthusiastically.
moves that. Is
Second.
there a second? Is there a seconder? Councillor Kathy Casey.
What are we talking about?
This is the minimum dwelling size, J. page
All right, well,
60.
I'm not sure that the officers have to say a lot on this.
No.
John, would you like to add something?
I could provide the specific dimensions that we would be reintroducing, if you like.
Yes, you
Mr. Mayor. So our case before the panel was that there should be a minimum dwelling size in the city centre and business zones of 35 square metres for a studio apartment or 50 square metres for a one or more bedroom apartment. And the panel has recommended removing those minimum dwelling size standards from business, residential and the city centre. This part of the agenda report is only dealing with city centre and business, so we will get to residential shortly. Similar issue will arise, and officers again are recommending that this is a provision from the panel, or a recommendation from the panel that the council rejects.
Okay. We've got a mover and a seconder. Do they want to speak at this time?
I think this will be unanimous.
Well, is there anyone who would like to speak?
Yeah.
Councillor Linda, and then Councillor Dick, and then Councillor Penny W.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a real advocate for intensity in the city centre, but not to the point of the chicken coops, which a lot of people are afraid of, and that's the issue here. If we want to bring an acceptance of apartment dwelling, we've got to have good quality, we've got to have the types of dwellings and the size that fit us. You know, we can't be squeezing people into kind of inhumane boxes. So for me, this is really important to have some amenity where you live. You can't rely on it all to be outside of your apartment. It can't just be somewhere where you sort of slide yourself into a tiny little bed and cram all your belongings there. It should be more than one of those pull-out Japanese sleeping type arrangements. We've got to actually have some value too when we expect people to pay for these. So for me it's, well, it is, isn't it? You know, you couldn't even fit your dog there, Kathy. We've got to be able to have room for a pet. It's really important. So for me this is a no-brainer. We can't...
Everybody needs a pet.
Exactly. Stress reliever, Dick, stress reliever. So for me, this is really important that we go back to what we had before. We don't want to, scare off people from apartments. This is about quality and amenity and living on a decent human scale. Thank you.
Beautiful. Councillor Dick?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'm probably going to be swimming against the tide on this one.
Oh,
Free market, free market.
Superhero.
Yeah,
Let the market decide.
compact urban form
But
champion.
Might have to send you over the Olympics. We need some help over there at the moment, Dick. Yeah.
But I do believe that if you actually believe that a compact city is important to the city, then you've got to go the same way that many other cities have taken the same urban form as Auckland, whether that's be Seattle or San Francisco. You've actually got to make provision for micro apartments. And because I can understand what the panel are trying to do here. They have seen an affordability issue in Auckland, which we've all seen. And they probably believe that there is an option here for some micro apartments that people can get into for maybe $200,000 or $300,000. And that's what it'll be. They won't be cheap, because I don't think this plan actually deals too much with affordable housing. So that opportunity should be afforded to people if they want to make that decision for themselves. It's a decision people make. It's not up to us to determine what people will buy in a marketplace. It's up to them. And if they don't want to have a pet, and if they only want to have a bed, and they don't want to have the amenities that go with the prices that they might have to pay, they should be entitled to buy a small micro apartment. There are probably students,
It's a micro
people-
apartment.
Japanese love
What
hotel.
is it?
Under
What is it?
$30.
Cheap,
What is
even
it?
though the Emerald's gone.
Micro apartments,
What is it?
micro apartments,
waving to
Councillor Casey, for your edification, are apartments of round about 20 square metres. And they are
20 square
square
metres.
metres, and
I
they are
would put
not.
a dog in 20 square metres.
You're like, I don't have a dog, so I don't need that kind of space for a dog. But
Do you,
let me say this, Councillor Casey.
Okay, you've made your
If somebody,
Keep going,
well, Councillor Casey keeps on interrupting
Yeah,
me,
I
so I'm quite happy to answer.
I think I'm about to move an extension.
Finally, we've got some good TV.
Olympic tenacity, keep going.
And I can, if somebody wants
All
to
in the
buy
100
a
in this
micro
room, look.
apartment, it should not be up to a bunch of meddling politicians to say, no, you cannot do that. And I'm all in favour of no minimum size, just as I am in favour of no minimum parking. I think that's another. All those things actually add to the cost of living in Auckland, and we know that that's expensive enough as it is. And what we're trying to do here is try and force people into something that really they don't necessarily. There won't be a big market for micro apartments. There will not be a big market, and if that's the case, people won't buy them. If there's no market, people won't buy them.
there you go.
That's all. That's
Market rules.
quite good. So the market.
Mr Mayor, I'm not going to hold.
Yeah, I
hold
know.
up.
No, hang on. Mike, you're about 6 down the list, so you should stay-ho there.
It's more of an interjection than anything else.
I know. Look, I mean, by the time we get to you, I'm
I
suspecting
do
you were to
recall
run out of things to
former
say.
Minister Bob Semple referring to a dunny for a cockroach, and I think that's that's micro apartment.
It would be useful. It would be useful if councillors could actually stick to the facts, rather than getting all emotional, and be somewhat a little bit more pragmatic and a little bit more logical than some of the things I've seen so far.
Councillor Quacks, I'm really tempted to
20
tell
to
you to
1.
keep going on.
Yeah, well, would you like me to?
Okay, enough of that. Right, Councillor Penny W.
Well, Mr Mayor, I'm going to agree with what Councillor Quacks was saying. What worries me is we sit around this table and we bring our New Zealand Western middle class attitudes. How many people actually know who lives in the central city at the moment in apartments? They may,
hot bedding right
some
now.
of us do, some of us will have them, and some of us will have 2 or 3 bedroom or whatever. But there are an awful lot of people who live in Auckland, in central Auckland, who would be quite happy to have a small apartment. They don't even want a kitchen. They probably go down the road and buy their dinner or go out with friends or whatever. We are moving into a modern city which is multi-class, multi-layered, multi-ethnic, and yet we sit around here and, you know, everyone talks about single houses with 3 or 4 bedrooms and land around it. There are people who are quite happy to live in small areas. Just because you don't, or you want a dog, or you want something else, you know, I mean, as a farmer, I think it's absolutely cruelty to animals to have a large dog in the city because they've got nowhere to go and they shouldn't be living in cities.
Bring the SPCA.
But,
That's
you
what my
know,
mother used to say
we
too.
all
She's
sort of
absolutely
sit
right.
around here and put those, what is important, and we were talking about it the other day, and I think Councillor Darby said he knows somebody, or one of you, was saying they know somebody who lives in a very small area and very happy to do so. So, you know, we need better design rather than minimum size. We need light rather than minimum size. I mean, we get really tied up. Nobody wants horrible shoebox apartments, but here we are saying, well, you know, we actually don't agree with the panel. We've heard around this table people saying the panel listened, the panel talked to everybody, so I'm going to be voting against this. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Penny H.
Webster?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And you know, what Councillor Webster says, there's a lot of wisdom in that, but we're not quite at that point yet. And I think whilst we are very quick to criticise some of our existing inner city apartments, we need to be aware, and a lovely man stopped me the other day at the lights to tell me how much he loved his inner city apartment. So there are people very happy in very small apartments in the city, and good on them. But building more and more without some sort of minimum size at the moment, to me, just doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you for why. We're trying to strike that balance between the removal of the kind of controls around urban design, density, minimum size, and all of those issues, and at the same time we're still trying to keep the promise that we made with Aucklanders that we would do density done well. And I think for me we're on that sliding scale between saying we've got to build trust and density done well, but at the same time it means having probably slightly more controls in place for the moment. As we build that trust and people see density done well, then we can sort of slide the bead along the line a little bit and actually remove some of those controls. But I think at the moment we're saying, let's just hold a few of those, see some good stuff done, and see the best intent out there. And, you know, the genuine deliverers of affordability are the no density rule. You know, and I'm glad Councillor Quacks again, the no minimum parking space, that's fantastic. These are the genuine deliverers of affordability. Just allowing wholesale building of minute places without great design, I don't think necessarily is what we need at the moment. So I'm very, very supportive of this.
All right, thank you. Councillor Arthur.
Thank you, Worship. I also am supportive of Jay. I think there's something we've got to accept is that it's let the buyer beware. And the buyer will dictate what he wants to buy.
Or she.
Sorry. Yeah. And the risk is taken by the developer. If he's going to build these and nobody wants it, he takes the loss. If he builds it and they want it, he'll sell it. There's not a problem there. So I don't think we have the right to see and dictate what's going on. The reality is, this is the top size, and I've actually seen some smaller than what they're talking about, which fits everything. Within that 20 metres, they get the ablutions, they get the kitchen, they get the whole setup. And it's what people want in the city. And the fact is, the most important thing that's governing everything at the moment is the cost of the land they're building these things on. Already we're seeing the price of a 1-bedroom at $399 starting, and that's cheap today. It'll be dearer tomorrow. And also people who were selling and moving out of town are now selling and buying a 3-bedroom apartment in the city at $700 plus. So you've seen the prices increase there. But as the governing factor to me basically is, what does the people want? They dictate the market. The buyer has to satisfy the market's need, and the buyer takes the risk of satisfying that need. And for a long time I've said this, and I think it will happen again, that a lot of people will come into the city during the week to work and have a crash pad and have somewhere else to go in the weekends out of town. That's the lifestyle that's lying ahead of us, where people will be, for those that can afford it. But to have a crash pad in the city, all enough to rent out cheaply or to own cheaply, allows young people and others in that area to be able to work in the city comfortably without the problems. And as we know what it's like to travel in and out of the city as it is today, it's going to be worse tomorrow. So, Chair, that's my point of view, is that, for me, in simple terms, let the buyer beware. They know what they're buying, they know what they want. Let the developer take the same consequence. If he delivers something that the market doesn't want, he won't sell. If he delivers it, he will sell. Thank you.
Good contribution.
Very good. Councillor Kathy Casey.
What is it we want here? Open slather on shoeboxes in the city centre. It'll be cram them in. How many can we get in this big tall tower? I thought we were about designing a city for the future. And that's the lack of rules, especially the lack of minimum size rules, must be causing people watching us to be thinking, oh my God. Because